Now that Doom the Dark Ages Revelations is upon us, it's a good time to refresh on our super heavy parry falter states. There are other ways to falter super heavies outside of just parries, like exploding someone near them with a pincushion, blowing up an explosive barrel, blowing up plasma shields, and landing a heavy melee attack, but we're going to focus specifically on how parries falter them, how many parries each enemy requires, which parries apply more stun, and if there are any special exceptions. First up and most simple is the Cyberdemon. The window is large enough between these parries to allow you to falter with your own attack and then land the second parry to refalter with that. And this enemy is the only one in the game that is also programmed to falter at a certain number of parries outside the window. You can actually parry a Cyberdemon once, run around, come back and parry again, run around, and when you parry a third time, he will falter. It doesn't matter how long you wait in between. Parry 3 always falters. The leader variant of this enemy goes up by 1. That means 3 parries in a short window to falter. But if you wait a long time between parries and come back to him, it's parry number 4. Next we have the Cosmic Baron, another one that's pretty simple. 3 parries of his up-close attacks will falter, and you don't have to hit all of them back to back. If there isn't too much time between them, you'll hit a falter by the third one. If he does his jumping ground smash, that parry falters every time. He has 2 projectiles, the one with the centered orb will falter if you reflect it back at him, but the random pattern scythes require you to send both of them back to falter. Next is the Vagary. Reflecting 3 projectiles back at him in a short window will falter, as will parrying his heavy, long-reaching swipe attack. Since he's armored, every time you break an armor piece, he will falter, and this is a great way to chain falters together and keep him stun-locked. If you sneak around his side and cut off one of his legs, he'll falter from that too, because any enemy that gets delimbed will falter. Imps losing their arms, Hell Knights losing their arms, and Mancubi losing their arms, all grant a falter. Now we get into the complicated stuff, Agaddon hunters and Komodos. We'll start with the Agaddons because they're more common. They have several attacks that will falter every time, the shield charge, the ram, and the chop. There's a good chance they're going to send you flying back, so you can shield bash right back in and capitalize with your melee strikes if you want, and refalter with your third hit. He also has a double slash that falters on the second parry. This attack is rare, but he starts doing it a lot more often if you start getting hit by him. He reads that you're not keeping up your defense and takes advantage of it. If you are blocking well, he'll mostly stick to single slashes, or a quick swipe from across his chest if you're close enough. These attacks have a very, very low chance of faltering because they just don't build up stun quickly enough. But it can happen, it's just so unpredictable and uncommon that I wouldn't make it part of your game plan. When it comes to parrying the double slash, it can be easy to confuse when he's going to do a single or a double because they look so similar. But there is a visual difference. When doing the single slash, his sword starts glowing yellow at the 9 o'clock position. For the double slash, it glows at around 10:30. It's a subtle difference, but if you spend some time practicing against him, you can learn to spot it. I'm catching it nearly every time now. The Agaddon leader and champion variants increase the required parries by 1. You'll need to parry a shield bash and a ram, or a chop and a double slash, or a double slash and a quick swipe. If you parry 2 single sword attacks, since they do little stun, you have to wait for a third attack to get the falter. This is in contrast to the regular Agaddon, who will almost never falter from these attacks. And there's a decent sized window between all these parryable attacks. So let's say you parry the shield charge and then SSG and Dread Mace to interrupt the ram follow-up. The Dread Mace falters and you can sneak in 2 more SSG blasts before you have to parry his next attack. And because this is the second parry in a forgiving window, this parry causes him to refalter. If you have the resources to spend, you can one-cycle a leader Agaddon. Finally, let's talk about the Komodo, which has huge differences between the normal and the leader champion variants. The first time you encounter him, he's the champion version, but we need to talk about his regular version first so we can understand what he's doing. The Komodo has 4 heavy attacks that falter immediately: ground smash, tail swipe, defensive backslash, and heavy slash. He has 2 light attacks that do not falter: double slash and flying double slash. The flying double slash has him leaving the ground to come in from a distance. It hits you faster and ends faster. However, with the regular double slash, it can be very hard to spot the difference between that and his heavy slash, which falters, because they have the same windup. But if you look closely, you'll see that the double slash has him arcing up towards the sky, head up high, while the heavy slash has him at a low profile. It's tricky at first, but once you learn to see it, you'll see it every time. Then you know he's gonna falter, and you can be ready to shield bash in if you want. And then he has a medium attack in the stab, which only falters if it comes immediately after a parried double slash. Okay, the champion and leader variants of the Komodo do not have any attacks that are guaranteed to falter on the first parry. It's a good rule of thumb to expect a falter on parry number 4 or 5, depending on if he's done one of his heavy attacks in that series, which is likely. But the window closes pretty soon, and he typically likes to run away a bit after attack number 3. You can see me here parrying him 3 times, and then on attack number 4 I get the falter, because he opened this series with a high stun applying ground smash, did 2 light attacks, and then capped it off with a medium stun applying stab. That's enough to falter in 4 parries. If he starts the same way, ground smash into double slash, and he instead finishes with another double slash, parry number 5 would falter. However, if he does 2 heavy attacks back to back, like the ground smash and the heavy slash or tail swipe, they apply so much stun that he'll falter from just 2 parries. If he mixes 2 heavies with a medium stab in the middle, you'll get a falter in 3 parries. If he attacks with 2 series of double slashes and a medium stab, that's not enough, and you'll need to wait for attack number 6 to trigger a falter. So it's all about recognizing which attacks you're about to parry, knowing how they apply stun to him, and you'll be able to predict with 99% accuracy exactly when he's going to falter. Now, these numbers can definitely change if the window between attacks gets stretched too far as he's running away. You just need to keep in mind how long he's taking to continue his attacks and the strength of the attacks he's throwing out. If you'd like to know more about the faltering system and how it applies to other enemies and unique fun ways of using them, please check out my guide from 2025. The section on the super heavies isn't as robust and accurate as it is here, but there's a lot to learn from it. I firmly believe that being very mindful about your falters doesn't just make you a better player, it makes the game more fun. In Doom Eternal, the falters were very intentional. You're making the choice to throw down a grenade to set up a falter. You're breaking the weak point. You're landing the blood punch. And when you first play the Dark Ages, the falters feel very reactionary. You parry someone and then you see that they're faltered, so you go in. But once you actually know which parries will cause a falter and where it leaves you, you can start seeking them out and planning your follow-up, turning it into a much more intentional mechanic. Not just in parries, but in jump falters, delim falters, plasma falters. You can realize how high up in the air you are, and you know the landing is gonna falter, so you already know what you're gonna do next before you land. You know those plasma shields are gonna falter the Cyberdemon, so you recall the shield to use them in small groups and keep him stun locked. Shield bash falter on a Revenant or Acolyte is a wonderful way of shutting down their evasive movement and then locking them down with shield toss. There's a lot of depth to play around with. Thanks for watching. I know this doesn't cover any new super heavies or new super heavy attacks in the DLC, but this should be enough to get you going.